guys, it's Linda Winter and
Darla Bucalo.
all right, we have another Winter Designs project. This is another Darla twist. We're using the dumplings. You can use any size you want. We're going to use the 6-inch today, and it creates this. Talk about this cool thing that you did.
What I did is made it into either a travel pouch or a pencil pouch, and I added the clear vinyl window inside. And I did it with doing the process like I did the other dumplings. And the only difference is when you go to put the zipper on, you won't be able to hand base this part, but you can base the other parts. And then when you sew your zipper on, it holds everything together.
Yeah, it's a cute little case, and you can make the vinyl in whatever width you like. So if you wanted it longer than this, even you could, or narrower than this. Remember, the 6-inch dumpling looks like this and looks like this, but you can see here, yeah, if we look at these, you can see the difference in the sizes here just by adding that vinyl. So again, the dumplings come in a 5-inch, a 6-inch, a 7-inch, an 8-inch, and a 10-inch, and they all have the no slip material, no slipping, no kidding. So when you go to cut, it's going to grab your fabric, grab your material, so that all the cuttings, including those box corners, are going to be consistent. So what you get here on the left side, the right side, the front, the back will be exactly the same. All right, what are we going to be doing to get the vinyl added to our fabrics?
We're going to create a fabric using the vinyl. What I've done is I've cut a 4.5-inch by 12.5 piece of vinyl, and then I have a 5-inch by 12.5-inch piece of outside fabric, and then a fabric that I'm using for the lining. Then I'm going to use foam for the interfacing, and that is cut that's pretty much the same size as the other pieces. And what I'm going to do is take the piece with the vinyl.
And the vinyl, let's talk about it for a second, because there's definitely vinyl to use and vinyl not to use.
I believe this is about a 16 gauge that I'm using. There are like 20 ounce or whatever gauge weight that you can use. That's pretty heavy and thick. But there's a finer one that's probably like 12 gauge. Probably could be used too, but I believe this is a 16 weight.
And you don't want it to be too wimpy, because you want this to have substance when you're using this to hold whatever it is. I've got some lighter weight that we showed in one of the other videos, and it's really wimpy and flimsy, and you'll be able to tell when you feel it. We want something of substance. The other thing too is I have a bolt of this material, and I'm going to put it to on the website. So if it's something that you want to add, I'm going to sell it by the yard. So if you decide, hey, I don't even want to go look for it, I just want to go buy it, you can add it with your dumpling purchase or whatever else too. So you'll be able to find it on the website.
Okay, so then I'm taking the outside fabric with the foam on the back, and then I'm taking the lining fabric and sandwiching the vinyl in between. Okay, I've gone ahead and clipped the edge that I'm going to sew just to make sure that I catch everything evenly. And I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam, and it's best if you can keep it as accurate as possible, because in the end it will show. Oops. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is take and I'm going to sew top stitch on my lining side, and then that way that will make it so that I don't have to iron, because of the vinyl being on this side. You're not really supposed to iron it, because otherwise it'll melt. And this way I have a top stitching that's hidden inside, and then once I go to the other side and do the other seam, then I will have top stitching. There will be a double stitching here, but you don't see it. And I usually top stitch about 1/8 of an inch from the seam, and I just pull it enough to keep it taut because I don't want to be pulling it back from the seam on the back side. Okay, so I've got that top stitched. And then now I'm going to take and just kind of press this back. And then I'm going to top stitch this. And then you can decide how you want to quilt the pieces together to make it so that it's like one piece.
And at this point, we haven't done any sewing on the vinyl at all, as far as our vinyl being on the base of our sewing machine. The vinyl has been sandwiched between your fabrics, so you don't need a Teflon foot at this point. Do we need a Teflon foot anytime during this project?
Not really,
Good.
because of using the fabric like this, you don't really need to.
Yeah, Darla taught me about working with vinyl, that when you've got your seams coming together, if you add fabric, then you don't have to have the vinyl being sewn together. Turning that vinyl is a whole lot easier, and sewing it is a whole lot easier. If you have vinyl to vinyl, it makes it a whole lot harder. But if you're working with fabric with the vinyl, then it makes it a lot better and faster and easier.
So at this point, I would go ahead and sew on the other side of this piece, and then decide how I want to quilt it on both sides. Okay, what I've done is I've quilted just some lines to hold the fabrics together, and I'm going to do that on this half to finish it off. And I used this 1-inch wide ruler that I have, and
we were just brainstorming a little bit, and a 1x10 would work really well for this. So I'm going to create a 1x10 ruler. And I think you'll be able to use it for a lot of your projects. Here, as you're stitching, you're just going to move the ruler down as you go. It's just a guide. So, and there are lots of rulers that you can use. You can do free motion quilting. You can do whatever it is you want. You're basically just wanting to hold all your layers of fabric together.
And it gives you a little bit of a guide to keep it so that stitching can be straighter. So I like it because you could free motion it too, but I just like doing it this way.
Yeah. And I think the foam gives a really neat look. We're going to look at stabilizers and kind of which would work better. But I think this foam is a really cool look with especially that 1 inch.
Oh, I get my foot down.
All right, so at this point, you can see that she's done the quilting here. You can do whatever style you want. This is the outside fabric. This is your inside, the lining fabric. We've got our insert here. We want to line up on our mats to be able to square this up. And you like to do a 12-inch basically on the side, so 12-inch this way. I've turned it this way rather than this way because we're going to be cutting here, and it's easier to cut up and down. So line up basically this area here and this area here with your lines. That way that allows us to grab one of our rulers. I'm going to do right here, I'm going to scoot it over a little bit. And what I'm going to look at is this mark right here, my 14 that's here. And we don't really need all of 12 because the dumpling is a dumpling and it's rounded. So we're not going to have all of that excess that's necessary. But I'm going to line up with a ruler, and you can use any ruler that you want. I'm going to go ahead and scoot over a little bit. We've got a lot of fabric. So I'm going to, again, as I go to cut, I'm just holding that down nice and snug to make sure that I've got everything. I'm going to turn this in the opposite direction, and we're going to line that up with my 26. 26 minus 12, 14. And so I'm going to place this over here, and we're going to look to see we're fairly close there. We're fairly close over here. And you can see I've got my 14, and we're just shy, but you say that's okay because it's the dumpling shape. All right, and then I'll cut this here. I'm going to scoot over a little bit just so I have a little bit more traction as a lefty. Okay, so we've cut basically a 12-inch in one direction.
And then what we do is take the dumpling template and we match up at the top with this mark that's a center, and then the mark that's a center here. And then you're going to want to take and mark then around. And then once you get to there, then you're going to take and mark the center there as well as the center on here.
And because you did the 12-inch, you know that the center position is center. And it's easier to do with scissors here than the rotary cutter just because of all of this bulk that you've got.
And then once I have this one side done, then I want to take the shears.
You want pinking shears, or is that
Well, I
good?
was just going to take the bigger scissors.
I'm
but
wondering, and this is
could
just
be
throwing this
even.
out there, what if you stitched along here
Could,
and then trimmed, if that would help holding it all together? I don't
but
know.
then you still have to do it on
Then
the other
flip it
side.
over on the other
too.
side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different ways. If you're comfortable with the rotary cutter and with working with the foam especially, then you can go ahead and cut with the template too. So that's the cool thing about making a project like this. You're going to cut out in whatever way works best for you. What's cool about this is it's a dumpling that was a certain width. And by adding the vinyl, Darla has made it a whole lot wider. And again, she's got, I don't know, maybe 6 inches of vinyl in there or something, but you can cut it to whatever width of vinyl you like. So this is a really adaptable project.
It's 5 inches,
5 inches, thank
that I
you.
have. That's okay.
I mean, you could make, they wouldn't nest inside of each other, but imagine having one that was this wide. I'm going to put this in here. And then one that was maybe from here, vinyl, and then one that was over here, so that you'd have a little bit, you know, wider, 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 or here, wider than narrow or narrower.
Okay, then I'm going to take, and then you don't want to crease the vinyl, but I do want to clip it so that I have it with the seams together. And clip it over here. And then I can take and cut out the same thing then from this side. I'm going to trim. And then
And you could always trace this area too and then cut out.
yeah,
I think,
you could.
I think having it lined up like this, you know, is just as easy.
Yeah, I'm not usually used to doing foam, so this is kind of a new one, and it is thicker.
And we are going to, again,
do.
talk about interfacings and stabilizers at the very end, because there are some definite do's and some definite don'ts, but you have lots of options here.
And then, okay, almost there. And I'm just going to take the clip off and hold it.
And there we go.
And there's your... Now the steps that will be taken from there will be the same as the dumpling video that we just filmed. And you're going to do the binding on the outside and flip it over and do the same thing. On this dumpling, I did not put an insert in because I figured either pencils or some kind of a travel case would be used, and so I didn't feel that there was a need for it.
Yeah, and the video that she's referencing, we're going to be calling it Dumplings, Going Beyond the Basics, because we showed you how to add the gusset or insert. We showed how to add seam binding at the bottom, and my favorite, adding the binding here for the zipper. So that video, you'll be making this basically in the same way. You know, when we look at this, you know, imagine your zipper coming along here. And you talked about the vinyl as to how it'll be a little bit different there than it will be here.
Yes, the only thing is when you have the vinyl, I did base the binding. When I flipped it over, I did the basting stitch. You can base this part and this part, but when you're sewing the zipper, then you're not going to be able to baste it at the vinyl, but it does, you can hold it when you sew it and do it just for that small stretch
section. Yeah.
4.5 inches.
But how cute is this? I mean, this is the same size template, and it's going to make this guy here, imagine your boxed bottoms, and this guy here. And this was done with a 6-inch as well. So
6-inch on there, and
yeah.
then the 4.5 on
So
this side.
all of these here, this guy too, I love these. She did a whole series of these in different sizes. They're all made from that 6-inch dumpling. So it really gives you some variety. And again, being able to modify how much of the vinyl you use too. You know, you could have more or less if you wanted to. And again, the
Yes.
gauge that you use of the vinyl is going to, if you do it wider, you're not going to have as much stability if you're using a lighter weight gauge.
Right.
So we need a heavier weight gauge to really give that stability.
Well, if you wanted to make a case like for knitting needles, you just
cool.
could do a really long extension too and make it longer for whatever tools that you have.
Yeah, that would be fun. Okay, so I mentioned that we want to talk interfacings a little bit because there are definitely ones that are better than others. So inside of here, inside of here, inside of here, inside of here, this and this, they're the same. This is the fusible foam. But in here, you didn't use the fusible fleece. No. You didn't use the SF101. You didn't use batting. You didn't use the Timtex Peltex.
I used core bond, and I had it ironed to canvas because it's canvas that's on the inside, and then this is on the other side of the canvas. And then I used a cotton fabric.
And when you did your stitching, it gave it a little bit more stability too.
Yes.
So, because you would think this being so thin that it would be really floppy and wimpy. But because of the core bond is more like a paper with a glue, it gives it a little bit more substance. This gives it fluffiness. You know, you can see that's more fluffy. So could you do the fusible fleece inside of here?
Yes.
It wouldn't be
It wouldn't be as firm.
Yep. You could do a combination if you wanted to do both of these.
Yes.
You could do that. That would help a little bit. SF101 and fusible fleece. And fusible fleece, by the way, comes in. This is a fusible fleece, and this is a little bit thicker here. So, you know, you can get fusible fleece in a little bit different thickness. So that's an option for you too. This, I can never remember what this is called. Do you remember what this is called? It's much thicker than your fusible fleece. This
Not
may
sure.
be just a heavyweight fusible fleece. I'll put it in the notes when I get a chance to do that. This is the foam that we had. And again, we're going to say no to batting. It's just not going to do anything. And we're going to say no to Timtex Peltex.
It's too stiff. It's too firm to turn in and out, I think, too.
Yeah, when you're doing this would be a bear.
Yes.
And I don't like the result that it gives you either.
Right.
So, all right. So I think we have covered all the bases with this.
I think so.
All right. So guys, this is that vinyl insert here using the dumpling. There's a bunch of videos now on the dumplings. And again, the dumplings come in a 5, a 6, a 7, an 8, and a 10-inch. You can find them on my website, winterdesigns.com. Type in the word dumpling and you're going to see a ton of options. I want you to find the one that has the word bundle in it. When you find the dumpling bundle, that's going to give you all the options that I have out there. There's a whole long list, so make sure you look through that list. to be able to see. There it is, dumplings, templates, fussy cuts, and bundles. The bundles, if you don't have any of the dumplings, yep, it's kind of a big chunk, but it's going to give everything that you need. I have fussy cut frames, all kinds of stuff. So the dumpling, you can just buy one size to try it out and see. Typically, I have people that buy one, and then they're calling and saying, hey, I want to get this size, this size, this size. I've had it happen probably 3 times in the last couple of days. So the dumplings are a lot of fun. This is another cool technique from Darla. Darla always is giving me cool techniques and then breaking it down and making it easy for us, you guys and me, to be able to say, I could do that. But how are you feeling?
Maybe someday I'll be a pro.
I think you guys, don't y'all give her a thumbs up? I think so. Yeah. All right. Thanks. So we will see you next time.